It's the Focal Podcast. This is the theme song. Hope you like it. Let's just get to the show.
What is up, Focal friends? This is Sierra, and welcome back to What the Focal, the only photography podcast made by non-photographers, where we interview industry experts to learn from their experiences and hear from their stories. On this week, we're joined by JJ and Alison, who run their business Palms and Lace, and we're so excited to hear about their stories. Enjoy.
Hello.
Good morning.
Here I am.
I can hear you. I can't see you yet.
Hold on. Let's see. Start video. Yep. There we go.
Hello.
Oh, there he is. Well, nice to meet you, Allison. Hi,
Yeah,
how
you
are
too. Full disclosure, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm like, can I get a little closer?
All good.
Sometimes
worries.
they just get a weird glare, so I'm like, do I wear them? Do I not wear them? Don't ask me to read anything because I won't be able to see it.
All good. I won't ask anything to be read.
Okay.
No skill testing
good.
reading questions.
Good, because we have none.
Right on. I just wanted to say hi. I'm actually going to end up jumping off, but I just wanted to say hi to both of you, and it's good to see you again.
I'm glad to see you
Hi.
again. We appreciate everything.
Thank you. No, we appreciate you guys. You're amazing, and thank you so much for coming on. Well, I'll let you go, and you can have some fun with Sierra. I hope it's a blast. And
Okay.
Otherwise, take care, and it's great to see
right.
you and meet you, Allison.
Yeah, you too.
Good to see you too.
See ya.
Take care.
So I'm gonna start off by just asking like a whole bunch of questions. So
We like questions. That makes it easier.
Yeah, perfect. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourselves and where you're from, and kind of tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. Should we go one at a time?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go first. My name's JJ. Born and raised in Ogden, Utah. I worked in real estate until I started our photography business in 2015. Started in Hawaii. We moved to Hawaii because my parents were living in Hawaii, and my dad was diagnosed with ALS and went downhill really quickly. And so we moved over to take care of my dad, and ended up staying. And when I was there, I kind of wanted to get out of the real estate business because I'm not a sales guy. I'm really not. I've always been more of an artist. And so, that's where photography started. We've been married. This will be 20 years in June. So we got married pretty young. So we're not that old. But I don't want to give away too much of the story. I'll leave some for her to tell.
I'm Allison. I am JJ's wife. I was also born and raised in Utah. We just spent 9 years living in Hawaii. So that was the only other place outside of Utah I've ever lived. So it was a fun adventure, and one that will always be near and dear to our hearts. That's where we raised our family and truly had some of the best moments of our lives there. So like JJ said, that's where our photography business started. JJ started it on his own. And kind of started out as landscape photography and transitioned quickly into wedding. And so I got involved a little later on as he was editing photos. He would ask, what do you think about this? Or what about this? Should I include this photo? And I would tell him, well, the bride's dress, like, you should have fixed this, or you should have moved this piece of hair. This necklace was off just a little bit. Is there a different picture this looks different? And he's like, how do you notice all of this stuff? And so I think it's just like, women see things a little bit differently, especially from a bride's perspective. So he was like, do photography with me. Like, come, this would be great. It would be so fun to do this together. And so it took a little bit of persuasion on my part. But I started and loved it, and we haven't looked back since. So before photography, I was a store manager at a retail store, and I'm a licensed cosmetologist.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have, that cosmetology background that helps too to notice those to notice those little details. So it's
Yeah.
really come in handy as like we've been working with brides to like help touch up makeup or like put the veil in, fix hair, whatever is needed. So as we look back at our life experience before photography, like we can see how our other jobs have really helped us be able to do our very best and hopefully make a great working environment for both of us, a team environment for our couples.
Yeah, it sounds like they really set you up for success, those like previous jobs.
And we have 3 kids. We should mention that. And a dog.
And a dog.
Aw. Okay, so how quickly did you join JJ's photography career?
After about, I'd probably say
like
6 months,
Okay.
maybe
It was probably
somewhere
more
in
like
that first year. I think I'd done like 4 or 5 weddings at that point, and just I loved it, but it was a little stressful. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm getting in the getting ready space with a bride, and I'm just like, this is awkward. Like this would be so nice if I had a woman to do this job, so I didn't have to feel awkward being, around these ladies that are like getting dressed. Because there's really no way to not feel like a creeper when you just, I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah.
So I was like, it would be so nice if I had Alison with me, and she relates so well to brides where I understood where the grooms were coming from, but the brides, sometimes I was just like, so anyways, so I bought a second camera body, and I think I bought it before I even approached her with this plan. And I was like, hey, look, I already bought this, the second camera, just come along. And of course she was a little apprehensive at first, but I think after the first wedding, she was kind of hooked on it. So, and it was way funner to do it as a couple, as a team, than on my own. So it's nice to have somebody to talk to,
Yeah.
on those long wedding days.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did either of you start out with like a passion for photography, or did you just kind of like learn as you went?
So we both always enjoyed taking pictures. It's something we've done a lot. I was more of I always viewed art as drawing, painting, and I always wanted to be an artist. I excelled in art, but it was mostly, I did a lot of art competitions, but it was all like, different mediums, colored pencils or acrylic paints or whatever. And so actually that was kind of how I got into landscape photography in the first place. Was I was doing paintings, and I was trying to sell paintings and things of that, and so I'd go out and I'd take photos so that I could go paint them later. And then over time, I just was like, hey, you know what? Taking the photos kind of fulfills that artistic need inside. And I'm like, I don't even need to mess around with all the messy paint and all that stuff, right? So I was like, and that was right at the time that like GoPros came out, right? So it was so easy to get out in the ocean and like go take wave photos like everybody else. So that's kind of how I got started. And then I was like, I need to get like a real nice DSLR. And so of course, real nice was like a Rebel T5 or whatever, like for me, I was like, oh yeah, $500-600, that's a nice camera. And then I, realized, well, there's like even more beyond that, right? But yeah.
So for me, I've definitely developed a passion over time. I always enjoyed like picking up the camera, taking pictures of the kids, or, whatever we were doing at the beach or at the zoo, or like wherever we were. It was the mom in you, I guess, trying to preserve those moments that, they just, time passes so fast. It's a thief. And so I always enjoyed capturing those moments for our family. So it kind of just built off of that, and that felt really natural. I wanted to be able to do that for couples as well. Like, here's this monumentous day that you spend so much time and effort and energy into, and all of a sudden your years of planning is over in one day, like in a blink of an eye, right? And so it's like I wanted to be able to help preserve those memories for those couples that they could look back on and say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that happened. Like, I didn't know my guests were doing that while I was doing this. And that's one, I think, unique thing, being able to be a team photography team. I guess that was too many
team
teams.
photography team. I like it. It's our new logo.
Like, we can be in two different places at once.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why the bride's getting ready and I'm in there with the bride, capturing those moments with her bridesmaids or her mom or sisters, whoever it might be, and JJ's with the grooms, capturing all of those fun moments. Like, those are moments they get to look back on and say, oh, like, you were doing this the same time I was doing this. Or our guests were having a great time playing cornhole and having shots while we were out taking photos of just the two of us. So hopefully, like, that's what we strive to deliver, right? It's just the day as it unfolds, so that those moments they've planned for but maybe have missed out on, they can relive through those photos.
Right. I think that's amazing. Following on that, how did you decide to do weddings, specifically for your photography career? Because it sounds like you had a really close tie to kids and your children's photography. So what led you towards weddings specifically?
Money.
Fair.
Well, yeah, if I'm being honest, like, it wasn't on my radar because, you know, there's like a stigma, right? Like, you see all these shows like Bridezilla or whatever, and like, I was like, oh, I want no part of that. Like, oh, brides are going to be so hard to deal with, and it's just going to be a headache. And so, you know, I was trying to sell landscape photos, and I was selling them here and there, but, you know, I'd have to sell 300 a month just to make what I make as a wedding photographer. And so eventually I was like, I love taking photos and I want to do this full time, but I realized that the money just isn't there, you know, in selling, you know, prints and stuff. So I was like, okay. So I just had an opportunity. A friend of mine who is a wedding photographer said, hey, I have these clients, but I can't do the wedding because it's too low budget or something. Like, I think it was like $250, $300 for all day. And I was stoked to make $300 for 8 hours of work. I remember being like, oh, this is great. And so I went and shot the wedding. It was a great couple. I mean, my first experience of like shooting a ceremony included an auntie who walked up behind the couple with one of these big iPads and just stood there the whole time recording it with her iPad. And of course, me being like a new photographer, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do in this situation? So I just photographed it as it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, after that first day, I was hooked on it. I was like, this is so much fun. I got to eat all the shrimp I wanted. I was like, this is great. So
JJ's in it for the food and the wedding cake.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame me?
So I think we are people, like, we like to be around people. And so on weddings, it's one of the happiest days of people's lives.
It's a party.
It's like you show up to a happy party for work. It's really awesome. It's something that we feel very fortunate to be able to do for work. And we've made a lot of friends over the years too. So I think that's what helps keep us in the wedding line and that wedding industry too, is just the ability to meet new people and to grow those friendships. It's taken us to some really neat places. We've been able to go like to North Carolina for a wedding, Oregon, California, Washington. We still go back to Hawaii often because that's where we started. We do tons of elopements in Utah. So even though Utah was home for us for a lot of years, we have been able to experience some new places that we've never seen before. So that's been a fun aspect of weddings too, is it's taken us
travel.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Taken us different places, has opened our eyes up to different cultures, different wedding traditions, and it's fun. Like, it's a fun day.
And the out of hundreds of weddings, we can't really think of one Bridezilla. I mean, we've had a few that were a little stressed, but in the end, they ended up being just fine, you know. And you learn how to work with people and how to help de-escalate situations. And, you know,
Well, and I think too, we've learned over the years is like we really get couples who are similar to us that
Mm,
have our like similar personalities that we really vibe with and get along with. So I think that's important too. I think couples realize too as they're picking somebody for their day, like you spend all day with whoever your photographer or videographer it like who they are. And so it's important to find somebody that you get along with and that you connect with. And so I would say that we have that connection with
hmm.
all of our brides and grooms in one way or another. And so that makes for a really great stress-free day.
Right. So would you say that you do like vet your couples really like strongly before signing on to a wedding, or how do you go through that
Um,
process?
yeah, usually there's been a handful of occasions where we're just like, and I try to say it in the most polite way possible,
Mm.
but it's like I just don't think that we're a match. And almost always I'm met with, "What are you talking about?" They're like they get super offended, but it's like, look, I'm trying to do you a favor because I just don't think that we're going to mesh well.
Mm.
We like the couples that are pretty chill, and they're not as interested in like big photo production as they are. Just we like to more document the day,
Hmm.
preserve the memories how they were. We give instruction when needed. There are times when it's needed, but we're not looking to come in and you know direct every little detail or aspect of the day. So yeah, I feel like as soon as I get an inquiry or a lead from somebody, I'm usually on Instagram trying to look them up, be like, uh, how's this person line up with us, right? But like she said, I think you attract what you put out there, right? So
Hmm.
it's like that's just we try to be like pretty honest about who we are as people, and hopefully people see that and they either say like, yeah, we like these people, or no, they're not for us. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And I saw on your website that you do label yourself as like a destination wedding photographers. How do you feel like you got yourself started in that specific area of photography? And what were like some of the really cool places you've been able to travel to that were like mind
Well,
blowing?
right. The easy part about being in Hawaii was 99% of the weddings we were shooting are destination weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Destination for them, right? Since we were living in Hawaii, it wasn't necessarily destination for us.
Right.
Um, but it is different than shooting, like, say, a local wedding in Hawaii, right? And so that transitioned pretty naturally into like the groups of people who are usually into destination weddings. Their friends are also into
Mm.
destination weddings. And so it when we were living in Hawaii full time, we were doing destination weddings, but financially it didn't make a lot of sense because it costs so much money to travel from Hawaii to anywhere. Which is one of the reasons for relocating to Utah, because from Utah we can go a lot of places for pretty cheap.
Right.
But a lot of the destination weddings we booked have just been word of mouth, which kind of surprised me actually. But we've gone to Australia,
Oh, wow.
like Oregon, Washington. Those all came from like one couple, right? That we shot in Hawaii, and they had a big network of friends, and we met. And when we go to weddings, we're always talking to the friends and the groups, and
Mm.
just building those relationships, because we just booked one yesterday actually that was from a wedding we did in Oregon. And this couple we talked to when we were there, and they said, hey, we're getting married in Utah actually, which we are from Utah, so it worked out great. um, but we just booked that one, and it was just from like making those connections with friends while we're at other weddings. So
That's very interesting to hear. I haven't quite heard people networking that way at weddings, but it makes
well,
sense
there's a
that,
lot of single people there, I
yeah, it
mean,
makes
that
sense.
same age. So
Yeah,
Well, and
connecting.
like I said, we like people too. So part of the day, like when we're going to take photos of people, like you see people gathered around, hey, can I take your photo? And I feel like people naturally talk to us as well. And like, oh, do you do this full time? Like, are kind of interested in what we're doing. And so it's easy to start up conversations that way too. And some people who are engaged will say, hey, we've heard great we've heard great things from our friends. They've loved you. They've loved working with you. Are you open to travel? Like, we're getting married here. Would you be willing to travel here? Which always is yes. Like, I guess maybe we haven't been asked to take a wedding in, like, I don't know, Minnesota or somewhere that maybe not might not be as fun, but they're usually
Minnesota's
places.
wonderful. How dare you?
We are always like, yeah, that sounds awesome. We'd love to see the Oregon coast, or we would love to check out a different place. So, yeah, I think that's been really helpful. And like you said, Hawaii in itself is a destination. And so we've been able to do some really awesome elopements. We lived on Oahu, but we would travel to Kauai or Big Island, Maui. So we've done some really awesome cliffside elopements. We've done an elopement where we hiked down to a black sand beach in a beautiful valley and did sunrise there.
Oh, wow.
So it's hard, I think, to pick a favorite. But we've been fortunate to photograph a lot of unique spaces and different locations within Hawaii, which always flood back into my mind, just because they're a little bit more adventurous, I guess, maybe to get to. Or we just did a really awesome elopement in Moab, Arches. And so that was a really awesome elopement there in that national park with the arches in the background.
So beautiful.
Yeah, so we've been to some cool places.
Well, and I think that, to answer your question, that's another aspect, is like the more you put out there, in social media and your portfolio of different places, the bigger the idea is the couple gets that, like, when they're, checking you out, oh, these guys go all over, they travel a lot of places, and there's some implied value there of like, oh, these guys are desired, people have them travel all over the place, right? And so, that's I guess part of it too is, of course, we want to present it in an authentic way. We don't ever try to, like, trick people, but there is that, like, element of just presenting to everybody, like, that we do travel. Right. So when they see that in our portfolio, then they get the idea, right?
And if you were to head to a new location, how do you prepare? Like, if you've never shot in a certain city before, how do you know where the good locations are? Anything like that?
Social media is the awesome tool. I mean, we always look up the venue. We see, like, what's surrounding the venue. Check out, I mean, just kind of like you would research for your own wedding, I guess. Like, research goes into it on our part, right? We look what's around. We see what other photographers have done. We usually try, if we're going to a new venue, if it's possible to show up the day before, check it out. We do that. If not, we just get there the day of early so that we can walk around. We can get a feel for where we're at and start the day, just feeling confident. We don't really feel, I guess at first there was that intimidation of, oh shoot, we've never been there before. What are we going to do? But now that we've done this for so many years, it's exciting. It's like, oh great, we're going to be somewhere new. Like, this is going to be awesome. And
yeah, I like the challenge. If I show up to a venue without seeing it first, I'm like, okay, it's kind of a fun, like, adventure to, like, okay, we got to get awesome shots, but we don't know the terrain that well, so we're going to have to, like, think on our toes a little bit, so.
It keeps it fresh, keeps it fun.
Yeah.
Well, and too, it's funny, like, even now when we go different places, like, and we're hiking, we're like, oh, this would be awesome for photos. This would be so awesome to do an elopement here. So I think too, like, it just becomes second nature almost, right? Like, you walk somewhere and you see something beautiful and you're like, oh, that would look great with a couple right there. So for us, because that's what we do, but just, like, that's how our minds start to think. I'm sure it's like people who are dentists and see beautiful smiles, they can,
or bad ones,
or bad ones, for that matter, right? They can be like, ooh, you should come see me, or, oh, you saw a great dentist. You look great. So I don't know. I think Yeah, we do our research for sure, but I think we feel confident going into new situations,
Mm.
different venues, with
I,
excitement.
I'm usually more interested in like the lighting and timing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for me, lighting's, like the number one thing. So I'm like, when I look at a timeline and I see we're doing couples photos at like noon, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to get real creative. Hopefully, there's a good spot because so
So yeah, then in that situation, we look for some shade, right? Like we look
Mm-hmm.
for some places that are going to be shady or the lighting's not going to be as harsh. So, um,
mhm.
yeah, you take those things into consideration as well.
Yeah, sounds great. I would love to know a little bit more about the way you split your time between Hawaii and Utah. So if you want to elaborate a little bit more,
Sure.
because I know specifically when we were emailing back and forth, and whenever we see you on Instagram, it seems like you go back and forth all the
It's a
time.
lot. Yeah.
And yeah, I want to learn just a little bit more about what that's like and how you manage it.
Okay, sure. So ideally, and this is all kind of like newer for us. We just moved back to Utah
A year ago.
about a year ago, last summer. The way it's worked up till this point is just as we can book weddings in Hawaii, we kind of try to structure it so that hopefully we can get two weddings and some engagements or family shoots in there. But like when we were there in the end of September, we had 7 weddings in 14 days. So
Wow.
it was like a crazy little. It was so much fun, and they were all like the most amazing weddings. It was like the greatest 2 weeks. But sometimes we'll go back for just one wedding, and then we are eating the travel cost, but we're still making good enough money that it's worth it for us. The way we'd love to set it up in the future and structure it is so that we're in Hawaii most of the winter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the Utah winter, because the wedding season in Hawaii is pretty consistent throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Utah, it's like as soon as November hits, there's not a lot happening between November. It's probably the same way in Canada, I assume,
Mm.
with cold weather.
Yeah.
So between November and like April, May, there's not a lot going on. So I would love it to structure it so that those were our months in Hawaii, and then we have our months here in Utah in the summer. Of course, with some back and forth here and there. But as of right now, we kind of structure it when we can. We go back and we try to make the most of it, and and booking stuff in Utah has definitely been harder than it was in Hawaii.
Okay.
The market here is pretty set. There's a lot of photographers in Utah, a lot, and there's a lot of people that get married, but it's just so much different than what we're used to. The price point's about uh, half of what it is in Hawaii, so
Oh, okay.
it's different in that sense, and the structure of the day. A lot of people want their day split into two, like half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening, which is it's okay. It's kind of a bummer though. I'd rather just do it all at once, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's we like both markets. It's fun. It's so different, right? Utah's got beautiful like red rock, and Hawaii's like beach and ocean and everything. So it's good. We're happy to do both.
Yeah, so if we're in Hawaii for more than 2 weeks, like this summer, we went and spent a month in Hawaii. We brought our family with us, so our kids were with us. So um, we don't love to leave them for a long time. They
Mm-hmm.
are they are our number one priority. So I mean, you miss out if you're gone for too long. So we try to keep our trips within like 2 weeks is kind of we don't like to push it more than that unless our children are coming with us.
Mm.
So we have a great support system here in Utah to help with our kids while we're gone. Um, so we feel like we can go and we can leave and do our work and know that everything's going to be taken care of here. So, but yeah, we are back and forth a lot. And there's times where like JJ will go and he'll stay and I'll come home and I'll spend a week with the kids and I'll fly back out that next weekend to make it to the next wedding. And then we come back together. So, we just just roll with the punches.
Right.
We're just trying to figure it out.
We're still learning. So like he said, this is our first year trying to figure it out. And so when we moved, we had a lot of weddings still lined up in Hawaii. And so we just have been, okay, like we have these lined up, we have these lined up, we have these lined up. But now as we're going forward, we're trying to be more cautious about how we book our weddings in Hawaii and picking and choosing a little bit more what makes sense, and making sure that it lines up with us and with our schedule, and then too leaving enough time for us to take weddings in Utah as well. So I would say as far as Hawaii goes, people are planning their weddings out a year to 2 years in advance. Whereas in Utah, it's a little quicker.
It's like three to 6 months.
3 to 6 months.
Usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're planning, they're getting engaged and they're getting married a lot quicker. And so that's what we've found out over this past year is we would have opportunities for more weddings here in Utah, but it just hadn't lined up with us being gone as often. So we're trying to be mindful of that as well going forward as we're booking into the new year, that, okay, we have this Hawaii wedding here, so we're going to try to keep any other bookings within the last half of that month as opposed to the first half of the month, so we can keep ourselves open for other things in other places, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the back and forth is not set forever. It's going to be like more, you'll find your groove of being like in one location and then just being open to destination.
Yeah, that's the idea. And we're actually hoping for more like, East Coast stuff or Pacific Northwest or even international too. So, we just booked one in California, Idaho. So we're going all over. And that's really what we get excited about too, is just going new places. So
that'll be really cool. It's very interesting to hear how like in different states they book weddings so differently and like the prices are so different. And it's gotta like throw a wrench in like how you're used to running your business.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's cultural because, the predominant religion here, the LDS. And so it's a little different. Not that that's bad. We're LDS ourselves, so it's nothing new for us. But that is, I think, the major difference between like Hawaii and Utah. So.
But in Hawaii, I feel like we a lot of our couples are similar in age. They are similar to our age. They're a little
mid-30s.
They're a little bit more experienced in life. They've dated for a long time, or they're further along in their careers, and so their wedding is something that a lot of them are paying for on their own. So they're picking and choosing exactly what they want. And so here in Utah, we found couples are a lot younger. They're early 20s, and their parents are paying for a lot of their weddings.
So we deal with a lot of mothers of the bride.
And so their
Which
parents,
they're more picky.
Yeah, and so their parents just have a lot more say in where their money's going or how things are being budgeted. And they're on a little bit smaller of a budget because they're just not bringing as much to the table as the parents who are. And so it definitely has been a learning curve. It's been something that there have been quite a few wrenches in trying to navigate and, figure out pricing, figure out like what people want, what they don't want, and just kind of coming into our own here. And so I think as we've been in Utah longer, we have started to find more of those couples who are our age again, right? Who they're getting married at the ski resorts, and they're getting married like at some of these different venues. And so now that we have more experience at some of these other venues with couples that are more our typical couple, I guess I should say, we're starting to attract more of those people in Utah as well.
Yeah, Utah has a destination market as well. It's just a little harder to find. So.
Okay, that makes sense. So I was looking at your little bios that you have written up on your websites, and I read that you guys were high school sweethearts. Is that
That is true.
Yep.
That's true. Okay.
Yes.
What has
true.
it been like to be married to the person that you work with every single day, and especially high school sweethearts? Because I feel like high school sweethearts is a lot of time spent together, and then now you work in the same industry. So I want you to talk about a little bit what that's like.
Okay.
It's awesome. It's been a lot of fun. It's like we tease we could be professional wedding crashers at this point in time. So we enjoy it. We get along really well for the most part. And I would say if there's been
Most
moments
days.
where we like are not getting along, as soon as we get to a wedding, it just changes. Like you're there to like provide a great service for somebody, but then all of a sudden you see this in love couple and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I do love you. I do choose you again and again and again and again. So I think I don't know, it hasn't been as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely we actually do pretty much everything together. We work out in the morning together, we go to the gym together. I mean, we're with our kids, so we do spend a lot of time together. But I think for a lot of years before we got into wedding photography together, we never saw each other.
That's true.
And so our kids were really young, and so he worked during the day, I worked at night, so we saw each other as we were leaving. You know, he was getting home and I was leaving, and it was a kiss. Okay, love you, here's the kids, we'll see you later tonight. And I wouldn't get home from work until everyone was asleep, and he, you know, then I would see him in the morning when he was leaving to work. So we didn't spend a lot of time together before this career, and we always missed that. Like we wanted to be able to spend more time with each other. And so now we just feel very fortunate and very blessed that we're able to still like each other, and we have a good time. We're pretty lighthearted and silly, and so we have a good time. And so it hasn't been as scary.
Really hasn't really been hard. Although the other day when I was editing, I was like, oh man, this videographer got in the way of every shot. And she's like, now you know how I feel. That is you. You're always in my way.
So I think too, when you work with your partner, like you have to be able to let things go. Like you have to be
short-term memory.
You have to just be able to like say, okay, whatever, and get over it really fast. Because if you hold on to things, then that's when it would that's when it would turn into not a good work home relationship, right? So I think you just have to go into it with a lot of grace and knowing that we're human, we're both going to make mistakes, like we're both going to do things that we don't like or whatever, but we work on it, and we just learning to take constructive criticism as well, saying like, hey, I noticed this could have been better executed if maybe if you could have done this stuff differently. So being able and willing to receive, you know, constructive criticism as well is something that sometimes happens better than other days. It depends. Some days I'm like, let's revisit this in 10 minutes.
And I think we both play to our strengths as well as we can. Like, I know where I'm lacking and I know where she's great, and vice versa. So, you know, like when it comes to like logistics of travel and all of those things, like she's totally the secretary. And I do most of the editing just because I enjoy it more. That's kind of like my thing that I like more. And we switch off on those things too a little bit here and there. But, you know, when it comes to like family formals, she's organizing everybody, getting everybody set up. And I'm usually standing back there just ready to capture the photo, because she's much better at wrangling everybody up. I'm
not afraid to like tell people, hey, come on, like the sooner you pay attention, like the sooner we do this, the sooner you can get back to cocktail hour, or I think that's like the store managers in
Yeah.
me, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not afraid to like say this is what needs to be done. Let's get this done and do it. And I can say it nicely but authoritatively.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is like herding cats.
Yeah.
And so JJ's like, I'll just let you do it. Like you can handle this situation.
I'm getting better at being mean when I need to be. You know, if someone.
Not that we're mean.
No,
not that
but sometimes you have to like be like, "Sir, get out of the aisle, please." You know, like there's a bride coming down. Please don't stand there. So
So
Sounds like you guys made a really great team for yourselves.
yeah, it's sometimes I'm like, man, we're so blessed and lucky to have kind of like fallen into this. I don't even never on either of our radars would we have ever been like, we're going to be wedding photographers. It's so weird to wake up and be like, this is what we do for work, but it's cool.
Did you have plans going out of high school of like what you thought you were gonna do instead
I
of
didn't have any
photography?
plans till I was like 30, till
No.
I found photography. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'll sell real estate.
So I mentioned earlier, like I'm a licensed cosmetologist. So
Yeah.
I actually did beauty school while I was in high school. So I went to 2 periods a day. At lunch, I left and I went to beauty school. So by the time I graduated from high school, I also was graduating from beauty school. And so I graduated and I was right into a salon. That's what I was like, oh, I'm going to do hair. Like this, I knew, like, that's what I thought I was going to do forever. Right. And so, that was on my radar. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a hairstylist. This is awesome. I can pick my own hours. I can be out of the salon by the time my kids get home from school. So that was always my main focus, was like a job that I could have that would still allow me to be a mom and still allow me to be able to go on the field trips and go do those different types of things. And so, photography wasn't really ever on my radar because I had my trade. And so, but as life progressed and changes and we moved and, oh, I lost my earbud. I still did hair in a salon 2 days a week. So I still had that fulfillment. But photography was a different type of fulfillment, and it was a different career path than I think we would have like we wouldn't have thought of. But it's been awesome, and it's really allowed us to show up and be parents still. And,
it still gives you that freedom.
Yeah, still gives us that freedom. I mean, we do miss out on like Saturdays are busy wedding days, and Saturdays also happen to be busy sports days for our kids, right? So we do have to miss things here and there, but really we're able to be around mostly during the week. So it's some give and take. But it's definitely a job that I would say is family friendly. And that's something that really connected with both of us, being able to show up and be here for our kids and still have a good family life. And we do travel, which sometimes is hard. Like we miss our kids, obviously. But thank goodness there's FaceTime and there's good family who's here with them, and they know like, oh, you get back in 2 days. Yep, we'll be back. So it's been good.
It's been good. Yep. I will say after high school, I wanted to play college football, and then I started going to college and realized it wasn't for me. So pretty quick, I was like, I have to pay for this to go to school. I was like, nah, not for me. So then I just started selling real estate, which was fine. I'm not a salesman. I don't like that aspect. Even with photography, I don't like the sales part of it. You know, when I feel like I have to really turn on my charm to book a wedding. I don't know. I like when they just come naturally.
Yeah. It's a more natural connection, probably vibe with couples better.
Yeah, we do a lot of like phone calls, and sometimes I'm just like, man, this feels like a job interview, and that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? And those are always the ones we don't book because
that's the red flag.
Yeah.
Is there a moment when you look back on your career and you feel like, okay, this is when I made it as a photographer? Like, I feel
That's a good question.
really confident in your career.
I would say, yeah, so probably like after we went full time, and we had a really good month, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just made this much money, like doing what we love, right? That was like, well, and that was a month that was like, I was kind of worried going in, like, are we going to have enough this month? And then we had like 20 bookings in that one month. It was crazy. So I'm like, oh, wow. And then I was like, wow, we can do this, and it felt good for me anyways. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, and I think like I look back too, and I remember, hate to bring up COVID, but I remember COVID, and I remember like thinking that was the year where I felt like super confident. I was like looking through our calendars, like we have all these bookings. This is great. Like I was feeling super successful. I was like, okay, this is lining up to be an amazing year. Like, and I was like, we've made it. We made it. Like, yay! And then all of a sudden, like, COVID happened, and our year started falling apart. And there is like, cancellation after cancellation after cancellation, and so that was like,
I think we canceled 40 in 2020.
It was just like, I remember going from being on such a high of like, in my eyes, we made it, right? Like, as we looked through our calendar, and as I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be an amazing year. I was so excited.
Yeah, we had like 60 weddings.
For me, I was like, we've made it. Like, we are going to be so successful. Like, we can do this. And then like, snap of the fingers, everything changed, and then all of a sudden I was like, are we gonna make it? Like, can we do this? And we've done it. Like, we here we are. Like, we've made
it out the other side.
We made it out of the other side. And I mean, it was tough, but it happened. And so now I feel like,
but
we can make it.
If you can make it through that, anything.
I will say COVID was part of what led us to Utah as well, and I think where we're at is a good thing, so
I think that was eye-opening, that all of a sudden, like, our little teeny island was shut down, and nobody was coming in, nobody was going out,
and it's all tourism dollars, and the economy is just based on tourism, and so with nothing coming in, we had no business,
Well, and a wedding couldn't happen even if it wanted to, right? Whereas on the mainland, some of these other states, it was like little weddings were still happening with.
Yeah, the restrictions were really tight.
The restrictions were just not as tight, especially here in Utah, and so that was eye-opening for us too. And we had always kind of talked about, like, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to live to have both, like to try to figure out how to have the best of both worlds. And so that was like, okay, you can laugh at me, I have a vision board.
That's a vision board.
So my kids and I, like, for New Year's, like, we always make it our vision board of what we want our year to be like, what we want our year to look like, set some goals. And one of them was like to figure out how to do part-time living, part-time in Utah, part-time Hawaii. And so I think out of like the craziness of COVID and like the lows, like the lowest of lows, gave us some of that courage that we needed to be able to say, okay, like, why don't we try to make this dream a reality? And so we were like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's try. And so our kids were ready for a change. They were ready to play sports and to be in dance and to be back in school, honestly. And so we were like, okay, let's make this jump. Like, let's do it. What do we have to lose at this point in time? So
maybe we're getting off topic. I'm sorry. We're rambling.
All good.
But so we did it, and here we are. What was your question?
It was about when we made it in photography.
Yeah. So here we are. I feel like we're living our dream now.
Mhm.
So again, like I would say, if I could tell you, like, yeah, I feel like we've made it. And looking back, we've had some rocky roads, and
Yeah.
we've had our challenges, but now I feel like both of us could confidently say, like, here we are. We've made it. Like, we're living, we're doing what we love.
I would also
That's
say
amazing.
our first wedding at Kualoa Ranch was like a big moment for me, because like up until then we were mostly doing like smaller, beach ceremonies and stuff. And first time we booked a wedding at Kualoa Ranch was like a big deal to me. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, you have those iconic,
or the first time we did like
venues, or
an off-island wedding, we went to Big Island. That was cool too. So.
Right. Or you just have those moments where you feel like in your mind, like, if I could shoot a wedding like ABCD, then I've become successful. So as you continue through your career and you kind of check off those weddings that you have in your mind you would like to shoot, those moments also help you feel successful, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and then you just keep adding more.
Yeah. So then your dream becomes a little bit bigger, or your vision changes, and so then what you think is successful evolves, and so you're continuing to grow and to push yourself, and success changes. But I would say overall we feel good, like, but we still have those moments and those benchmarks where we feel like, okay, yeah, like, we've now achieved this milestone, and that feels really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, last question.
Oh.
If you could give a piece of advice to yourself when you're just starting off as a photographer, what would that piece of information be?
Do you want to go first?
It's a tough one.
It is.
I think confidence is important, and it took a couple of years before I was like, felt confident enough to like charge what I was valued at, right? Because especially for me, it was like, I personally would never pay X amount for photos. So in my mind, like, it didn't make sense to charge a lot of money. So it was like my first couple of years I was way undercharging, and then the quality of clients you get is like kind of matches usually. I mean, the pickiest clients we ever have are the ones that want the big discounts, and so that's why that's what I would probably say to myself is like, I mean, you don't want to be overconfident and overcharging, but like, it just took so long for me to feel comfortable like charging what I was worth, and we rebranded like maybe 4 years ago, and I wish I would have done that sooner. But I was like, I'm already like 3 years deep, because our name before was my initials, JJO Photo.
Oh, okay.
So it just didn't make sense, because it was the two of us, right? Because
Well, when he started, it was
just me when I started.
So it made sense, right?
Yeah. But after the three of us, or the two of us, were working together, I was like, it doesn't really flow. And a friend of mine who's a wedding photographer who's been like a mentor to us, he was like, I hate to say it, but I think you need to rebrand, And I was like, I don't want to do it. So I waited like a year, and then finally I was like, we need to do it. So, and that was a process in itself. But I wish I would have done it sooner,
Yeah. So like doing things sooner.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say, like, find a friend who has more experience than you, and learn and grow and be open to like suggestions. And we have a great set of friends. They're all, like he's mentioned, they're also wedding photographers, and they happen to be a husband-wife team as well. And I feel so blessed that we met them, and they were able to kind of help us along our journey and give us pointers. Or if we had questions, like, they were so nice to us and we're like, yeah, do this or don't do this, or this is what we did. And I think that has been invaluable for us and for where we're at today. And so whenever we meet new photographers or we meet new people, I try to have that same level of love with them as well, of people who are just starting out, or, a new wedding venue or new wedding planner or a new florist or whatever, because really your job is what you make it. And being able to help other people succeed, I feel, is important too. So I would say finding somebody that like you can get along with, that you can ask questions to, that you can trust, and they can help guide you along the process. Because I think in the beginning there's a lot of things of like, oh, what should I do, or how do I handle this situation, or I don't know. I just think that was something that, looking back on, was a great tool for us, and I'm glad we had that. And so even if it is like investing in a training, like spending that money to go learn something new, to learn a new skill, or to learn how to level up yourself, I think that is a great thing to do, is to be able to just like believe in yourself and invest in yourself, find those people who will help motivate you and help you become that best version of yourself.
Also, I'll add, don't be afraid to spend money on advertising. I mean, it took me a while, and you're just trying to book everything by word of mouth, or it's a lot of money to spend $500 a month on advertising or whatever. But when you do that, and then it brings you in 3 or 4 weddings, then it's nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah. And I want to give a quick shout out to Taylor Jackson. He taught me everything I know, but I wish I would.
We love you, Taylor.
A couple years sooner. But yeah, it's great to find resources like that online, where you just, I can just sit down and learn so much, so.
Yeah, for sure. Finding those like mentors, I feel like, is so helpful. And I really liked the piece of advice that you gave, because it's something I've been hearing more often, and that's that when you give and receive help without the thought of reciprocation, it usually will be reciprocated in some way.
Yeah.
But it's like that mindset of doing it without feeling like you're getting something in return. But like in the scheme of things, you will see a return on it, and it can just be amazing for everyone.
That's right.
Right.
And go ahead.
Well, and I feel like in this industry, sometimes people are so like closed off. Like, oh, like I've had to fight tooth and nail to get where I'm at, so why would I want to help you? Where like I don't really think like that. And so
we have more of a community mindset. It's like not a scarcity mindset. And so we love working with other vendors and just creating like a great community. When we show up to a wedding, we're like, we know you'll be great. We know you'll be great, and
we have a great relationship with you. You're amazing. Like, I hope people feel that same way when we show up to a venue too, or to a wedding, or like, I don't know. I just want to be a nice person.
And it's about client experience too. When the vendors all work together as a team, and the couple doesn't even know there was a problem because the vendors all handled it. You know what I mean? So that's what we aim for. So
yeah. Same with that focal, like our group chat on Facebook or Facebook group is literally called Community Over Competition.
I know. I need to join.
Yes.
A good reminder. I haven't been on Facebook really for years, so I'm getting more into it though. So.
And it's such a great place, because like 100% that's all we foster is like, we think building a community will help everyone in the long term instead of like trying to compete. That's not gonna help a lot of people, but if the industry flourishes, everyone flourishes on
Right. And I think that's probably why, like, honestly, we felt so great about Focal too, right? Is like coming, knowing, like, we felt supported through the whole process of like building our website, and there was always a friendly person to talk to, and that just resonates really strongly with us, because what our core values and beliefs are too, right? Is just making sure that there's that happy, positive, that person that's greeting you on the other end with some kindness. And
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we always love to provide. It's just, we're always there, always here to support. We always want to help, and we're just here. Yeah, we're just here to help you guys along with the process.
We love it.
Yeah.
We've loved it. So thank you guys so much.
Of course.
It's been wonderful.
It has been wonderful to have you, and it's been wonderful to have you on this podcast. Your stories were amazing, and we were so excited to just hear more of the details and actually get to hear more of your story a bit more. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks.
And oh yes, would you like to plug yourselves on where people can find you if they want to find you
Sure.
on any of the social medias?
Yeah, we're mostly just on Instagram at this point. I mean, we should do other stuff too, but I'm like, Instagram is enough for me. I don't like the social media stuff, but Instagram I can handle, right?
Yeah.
We're on Instagram, Palms and Lace. It's palms_and_lace. Our website is palmsandlace.com. That's it. That's the only place you can find us, I think.
Perfect. That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
Maybe more coming soon. I don't know. My kids say TikTok I should do it, but I'm like,
yeah.
I guess I should.
That's what we say to Lachlan. We say TikTok to Lachlan.
I know. My daughter's like, Mom, you need to get on TikTok. And I'm like, I can't wrap my head around another. I'm like, I think I just associate all these stupid dances with TikTok. And she's like, it doesn't have to be like that. So hopefully, maybe more.
It's more like the reels, right?
Yeah. So
I make reels, so I might as well just do it on TikTok too.
She's gonna teach these old dogs to make it.
We'll just hire her to do it for us, right?
More coming soon.
Yeah. More to come. More to come.
Love it. Okay, thank you so much for hopping on this call with me. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.